Hello, and welcome to the Black and White Podcast. It's episode 9. We'll be going over some Week 9 recap games and talking about Week 10. It's November the 10th. We're excited to get into these games. My name's Josh, and this is my co-host, Josh.
Hey. Sorry, we had to take off last week because we actually recorded an episode, but we had audio problems with it, and we weren't able to recover it, so we had to take the week off, unfortunately, but we're very excited to get back into it.
Yep, everyone has a bye week, so it's okay. That was just the bye week we needed.
Exactly.
There weren't too many injuries this week. Christian McCaffrey picked up a slight injury near the end of the Chiefs game, of course, as soon as he comes back, but really there weren't any major injuries. We also saw the trade deadline come and go without really any major trades. It was kind of unfortunate, yeah. Maybe I hope to us personally that the Ravens had gotten a lineman or maybe something like that, but Yannick Ngakoue will do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very happy with him.
Yeah. We could hop right into some games. We're going to just talk about 2 of our recapped games just from Week 9. We had some predictions in other games, but because I'm actually going to start off, get right into games, start off with Seahawks and Bills. We actually had both thought that the Seahawks would win the game and that it seemed like Russell was going to go in and do his thing, but we did say that Josh Allen really needed to... This was a big game for Josh Allen, and he really needed to prove that he was, the next up, and this game showed that he is the next up in the AFC East.
Yeah, they look like they're a force to be reckoned with. They're gonna, definitely put up a fight, and they could... they have a strong possibility to make it deep into the playoffs with the team. I mean, the team that they're showing right now.
Yeah, Josh Allen was just clinical.
Yeah, he's so good.
31 of 38, 415 yards and 3 touchdowns. Whew.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson, he didn't really play Russell Wilson like. He had 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 390 yards. So he threw it all over the place. But you could tell that the Seahawks, being on their near 4th to 5th string running back, really hurts them, because DJ Dallas had 7 carries and 31 yards for a touchdown, so he didn't really get going. And DK Metcalf, of course, he does his thing, 7 receptions, 108 yards and a touchdown. Stephon Diggs on the other end actually had more receiving yards than even DK Metcalf did, and he had 118, so he didn't have a touchdown, but
still a very good game.
Yeah, it was unfortunate Seattle couldn't really get Tyler Lockett going. He had 4 catches, but only 40 yards. So maybe going down the road, it's not a huge deal for Seattle to lose this game, but their division is very competitive. So with the Niners and the Cardinals and also the Rams in that division, you have 4 teams that could all go to the playoffs. So now that Seattle has 2 losses, they kind of have to look at themselves in the mirror, and they're going to really need to get these NFC West games. Are going to be big for them down the stretch, so they can win these games, and hopefully they can win the division. But we'll see, because, like I said, Arizona, the Niners, who, even though they have lost Jimmy Garoppolo probably for the season, they still haven't given up. And you have the Rams as well. So, and also on the other end, the Bills. The Bills look like they're going to be a definite, really good playoff team now. 7-2, 4-1 at home. Buffalo is just a really good team that maybe needs a little bit of a running game. They had Zach Moss, who is just not really getting going. He had 9 carries, 18 yards, and a touchdown. So, but he did have 2 catches for 30 yards, but that seems like that could be an area where they could really improve. So Josh Allen doesn't have to carry the team the whole time, and Devin Singletary also, he didn't play much. So
yeah, and because Zach Moss did show that he can be productive, because the week before this he had 81 yards or 87, somewhere in the 80s, and 2 touchdowns. So I mean, if he can play at that level, like, that would just help Josh Allen an incredible amount. But yeah, they couldn't really get much going this past week, unfortunately, like you said.
But if you score 44 points and win the game, then it means that
you're doing something.
You have a big area where you can improve on. So you at least know where your weaknesses are, and you can make them better by week.
Yeah, and it's encouraging because if you can score 44 points right now without much of a run game, once you get that, it's going to make you that much better, and teams are just going to have an even harder time defending against you. So you're going to be able to compete with these teams like the Chiefs and the Ravens and stuff in the AFC. So yeah, they're an exciting team to watch.
Yeah. Doesn't seem like the AFC East will be won by the Patriots this year.
No, I do not think so. They are not great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess that's good.
Yeah.
Well, hopping from that over to the Raiders and the Chargers. So that was like a really incredible game. It came down to the last play, and the ref gave the game to the Chargers, and then had to look at that catch. It wasn't a catch, and then the Raiders ended up winning.
Man,
so,
I thought for sure that was a catch.
It looked like it.
It looked like it.
Until you got that one angle that showed the ball hitting the ground. And it was an incredible pass and an incredible almost catch. But yeah, this game was really just pretty back and forth, and both teams came to compete. Both teams are really exciting to watch, I think.
Yeah.
The Raiders are, have a better record than the Chargers, 5-3. But the Chargers are showing a lot of promise for the future. So they're in every game fighting for it.
Especially once they get Austin Eckler back.
Yeah.
They don't even have their starting running back, and they've gone through 4 running backs at this point this year. So
yeah, so they're not even at full strength, and once they get him back, they'll be even better, and definitely I think next year a contender, which is really cool. But Derek Carr, he had an okay day. He went 13 for 23, 165 yards, and 2 touchdowns, and he didn't throw an interception, so he didn't turn the ball over at all. So, decent day. Devontae Booker and Josh Jacobs had decent days with 68 yards and 65 yards. So, they had a pretty good day. They each had a touchdown. And we finally saw Hunter Renfrow get into the game a little bit. He had 2 catches for 60 yards. And Aguilar just continues to be pretty good.
Yeah.
It's weird how he went from the Eagles to here, and he just catches everything now. He's
being made fun of the whole time. And
yeah, something I guess he just has better chemistry with Derek Carr. I don't know, something.
Maybe.
But he's pretty good.
It just clicked.
Yeah, he had 2 catches for 55 yards and a touchdown. Darren Waller didn't do a whole lot. He got 5 catches, but only 22 yards. He did get a touchdown, though, so.
At least made up for the day, fantasy-wise.
Yeah, at least fantasy-wise. But, yeah, so the Raiders, they had a pretty good day. But Justin Herbert, he had a really good day. He went 28 for 42, but 326 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. So, not bad. Without Eckler in the game, their run game isn't amazing, but Kalen Ballage, he had 69 yards on 15 carries and a touchdown. So not awful. He averaged 4.6 yards
especially
a carry,
with Justin Jackson. Justin Jackson went out of the game 2 snaps in. He's on my fantasy team in 2 leagues. He went out in the first 2 snaps. So
so this guy had to take on an even bigger role.
They're thin there for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So he did decent. Keenan Allen, though, he went off 103 yards on 9 receptions and a touchdown. Mike Williams had a day. He went 5 catches for 81 yards. Not bad at all. So all the receivers, Tyron Johnson had 50 yards on the catch. So they had a very good day in the air, but in the end, they just couldn't finish it. But they came so close. They really did.
Poor Chargers.
Yeah, it was a heartbreaker. I was just very glad I wasn't a Chargers fan because that was rough. But a very, very good game. I think, like I said, both of these teams I think are going to be playoff contenders. Chargers maybe next year, but the Raiders, I think they're definitely going to be in the talks, especially with the 7th team available, or, the 7th team at it. So, yeah, it was a great game, and
yeah, the game was very entertaining. It seems whenever the Chargers can lose a game in the most Chargeriest way, they do. And we see time and time again that it looks like they're definitely building something. The Chargers have really struggled over the years, especially with Phillip Rivers and their inability to really go deep into the playoffs, because Phillip Rivers has never been was never in LA, well, in San Diego at the time. He was never really a huge playoff winner. But it seems like Justin Herbert, if he can get guys behind him and he can get a better line, if he can get a better line in general, then they'll be better, much better down the road. They can keep Keenan Allen, especially. They already have Hunter Henry. They have a good complementary offense around Justin Herbert already. But if they can just get a better line, maybe even draft a better running back to complement Austin Eckler next season, then I like what I see from the Chargers. They can be a very good team in the AFC West. They can be a very formidable opponent against the Chiefs, as we even saw this year.
Yeah. And it actually looks like the line didn't give up a sack to the Chargers in this game, which is good. So like you said, if they can, improve, I mean, if they could draft a lineman and just really solidify that line.
Yeah.
I don't know a whole lot about their line, if it's good or not.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if they can just keep him protected, maybe get him a little bit of help. I mean, he has Keenan Allen, so and Austin Eckler. So I mean, like you said, that's a great cast around him that he has. Mm-hmm. And you could pick someone else up in the draft, and I mean, you're pretty set. Like, should be pretty good. I mean, you see what he's working with now, even before Keenan Allen came back from injury. Mm-hmm. So it's very encouraging.
Mm-hmm. Next season is, I'm not trying to get too ahead of ourselves,
of course,
but next season is going to be a very interesting season, because Tua and all these guys that are, and then we still have rookies that are, Trevor Lawrence. This is gonna get very exciting next year, folks. But
yeah, I feel like it's been a while since we've had like really good quarterbacks.
For sure.
Besides, like Brady, Rodgers, and Drew Brees, like we haven't really had young quarterbacks, and I feel like Patrick Mahomes and then Lamar just like started it, and then ever since then it's just been like a huge influx of just really good quarterbacks, and it's pretty great. I'm very excited for just the years to come, because it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah. Two people that are literally in the opposite of what we were just saying. Tom Brady and Drew Brees. They battled it out. I wouldn't really say it was a battle, because the Saints annihilated the Buccaneers 38-3. Tom Brady, 209 yards, 3 interceptions. Quarterback rating of 3.8. So it was a bad one from Tom out there. Yeah. He didn't really play the way he should play in these games, but it seems like, as we've said in the podcast in prior weeks, if Tom Brady is not clean in the pocket, he's just not going to throw the ball effectively. And you see that every game that he does poorly. He just doesn't have enough time. And Tom Brady is 40-some years old.
Yeah.
Not getting younger. He's never been mobile anyway. So I think that their ability to get to him and really pressure him and hurry him up, they didn't have a receiver that had more than 6 catches. Leonard Fournette had 6 catches for 41 yards, but Mike Evans only had 4 catches for 64 yards, and Chris had 3. And Antonio Brown, really, he had a pretty good day, though. He had 3 catches himself for 31 yards, which is a good start for him.
Yeah, especially after not being in the offense at all, maybe 3 days.
Yeah, so it looks good. It looks good on him that at least he really made a good impact on their offense, and he could make a even more impact as Tom Brady trusts him more to run the routes and work in the offense. Mm-hmm. The Saints, on the other hand, they just went out there and played well. Their defense really took over the game. They had their defense really took over the game. They had 3 interceptions, and they just would not stop coming at Tom. And so the game, really, Drew Brees didn't do too much in this game. He was 26-32 at 222 yards throwing. He had 4 touchdowns, but he didn't have a lot of yards, but I guess his defense was just putting him in the positions to win. And Taysom Hill actually led their team in rushing, too. Taysom Hill had 7 carries for 54 yards. Alvin Kamara himself had 9 carries, 40 yards, and a touchdown. But he didn't really need to do too much in this game because he really led the team. And after the first half was over, the game was over because it was 31-0 at that point. So we got to see a Jameis Winston sighting, which was cool. Jameis Winston came in, completed 1 pass for 12 yards. He ate the W in that game.
I saw that in the post game interview. I saw him do it. It was great.
So I like to see. I'm very excited, but Jameis Winston is another player, like we said, next year. That where will he end up? Will he stay in New Orleans? Does Drew Brees retire? And we don't know.
Yeah, we
but
really don't.
Still, the Saints looked good. They're 6-2. This is a good win for them after they've had some underwhelming weeks in the last couple of weeks. So, will they continue this? Will this trend continue for the Saints, or will they step back in the next game? It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they really came to play this week. Drew Brees has beaten Tom Brady twice now. They've just shown dominance over him. Mm-hmm. And, it'll be interesting to see how Tom Brady bounces back from this and if, Antonio Brown gets a bigger role next week or, what happens with that. And the Saints defense really hasn't been, like you said, that great this year at all by any means.
Yeah.
So they just came out and really showed up. And, I mean, is this something that can be consistent? Like, can they do this consistently? I don't know. Maybe they just really know the Bucs because they play them twice a year. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But I wasn't expecting it to be such a blowout.
Yeah.
But Tom Brady, I mean, we watched him have one of the worst games of his entire career. So it was a fun game to watch if you hate Brady.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to watch both teams really because I don't know. I feel like the Saints might be in a little bit better position than the Bucs right now.
Yeah, right now. I mean, you would think. I mean, Tampa's still 6-3.
Yeah.
So they're still in a very good spot, and especially with expanded playoffs, and maybe even potentially seeing that they're gonna maybe put in 16 teams if we have games canceled because of COVID. That's what they're talking about as of right now. So if there were games canceled, then I mean that's almost 2 teams a division almost.
Yeah.
So you would think Tampa Bay is going to get into the playoffs regardless. But yeah, we could maybe see this in the playoffs. Who's to say?
I hope we do.
Maybe the Bucs go 0-3. I mean, maybe Tom Brady does.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely could. I would love to see this matchup again in the playoffs. I think that both teams definitely probably will make the playoffs. But just the Saints with them getting Michael Thomas back now, I think, they just kind of upgraded a tier, I think, because of that.
Oh, big time.
Because it's Michael Thomas. So I think they're definitely the stronger team, as they showed, obviously, last week. But I think Tom Brady will bounce back because he's Tom Brady, and, he's not going to keep losing. So they'll be fun to watch. Very fun.
They'll definitely work on the offense, and they'll get better. And their blocking will be better than it was.
Yeah, because Tom Brady just any pressure and he just cannot perform. But someone who did perform, and he performed amazingly until the last throw or whatever. And I have a theory about that. But Joe Flacco and the Jets against Cam Newton and the Patriots. It shouldn't have been really a good game at all. But it was a very fun game to watch, somewhat, especially if you're a Joe Flacco fan. But it was a great game. I think the Jets deserved to win it, but Flacco, we're going to start with him just because I'm super excited about how well he performed. 18 for 25, 262 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. But I have a theory.
Oh, okay.
The theory is
the way overthrown pass.
Yeah, Joe Flacco doesn't usually just do that on overthrown passes.
The old back foot.
But I feel like Adam Gase was like, hey, Joe, come here. And Joe, like, walked over, and he's like, yeah, coach. So excited, and Adam Gase is like, you know we're trying to get first pick next year.
Yeah, right.
Don't mess this up for
It
us.
seems
And
as
Flacco
if
was
the
like,
Jets are going to definitely get it.
Flacco was like, but I want to win. And he was like, no.
That's probably what
No,
happened.
throw
You're
an
right.
interception here. The defense is going to let them score. So, Joe Flacco already got kind of pushed out of Denver because he talked against the coach. So I think here, he didn't want to do that again. So he was like, darn it, I guess I got to do this. So he just went up, he closed his eyes, and he just launched that baby. And someone picked it off. And that's why the Jets lost, I think. But who knows? But I'm pretty sure it's true. You can look it up. But,
no, that was. I don't think that's what happened, but regardless, it was a good game for Joe.
It really was.
I don't know if Joe will really I don't know if Joe will have another great or even good game like that. But it's good to see at least one game where Joe Flacco looks like himself and it was in prime time, so it was nice to see for him.
It was Primetime Joe.
Of course, all of his throws were to Brashad Perriman, but
yeah, Brashad Perriman dropped a pass early on, but then he got 2 more touchdowns and 101 yards on 5 receptions. Probably better than any game he played with the Ravens.
oh, definitely. That's
So
definitely
I don't think he ever, So at least he finally gave Flacco some support. And then Denzel Mims looked pretty good too. 62 yards on 4 catches.
Not bad.
So, and Flacco, he spread the ball around. A lot of people had 2 catches. Frank Gore got in there a little bit. Frank Gore had a decent night. 12 carries, 46 yards. Nothing great, but, good for Frank Gore. So, the Jets, they came to play, and Flacco really led them to almost a victory, but led him to at least stay in the game the whole time.
Field goal right at the end, of course.
If only, darn you, Adam Gase. And, the Jets defense, in the first half, I felt like they performed really well. Second half, Adam Gase probably told him to, stop it.
Defending.
Hey, stop that. The second half, they just kind of fell apart a little bit. Cam Newton finally got into a groove. He went 27 for 35 on the night, 274 yards, but he had no passing touchdowns. He did have 2 rushing touchdowns, however. So, you don't really need the passing touchdowns if you're rushing them. So, he also had 16 yards on 10 carries. And Damian Harris, who got injured, unfortunately.
He rocked, too.
Yeah, he did. He had 71 yards before the injury, and Rex Burkhead had 56 yards and a touchdown. So it was unfortunate to see Harris go down because, he's pretty good, and you hate to see it. But I guess Burkhead might be getting involved in the offense more in weeks to come, which, the Patriots don't. I feel like they usually switch running backs so much, but now they might not have that luxury, and you might see more of a traditional backfield. But in receiving yards, Jacoby Myers had 169 yards on 12 catches. Insane. And Demir Bird had 65 yards on 5 catches.
Wow.
So, yeah, they really helped out Cam Newton. They got open. They did their job, and Cam Newton, in the beginning of the game, he was really on fire. He wasn't throwing in, many incompletions at all, but they just weren't getting points. But they really rallied in the second half. They did what they had to. They won the game because Joe Flacco threw that pick, which led to the 7 points.
Adam Gase told him to throw that pick.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he did. I know he did. I'm going to prove it one day. I'm coming for you, Adam Gase.
It was a big win for the Patriots. The Patriots aren't really out of playoff contention, but it doesn't seem like they're going to make it. They have some tough schedule, tough matchups. They do play us next week and Sunday night. So the Patriots are really at a crossroads in their organization. Really, Bill Belichick needs to decide who are the players that are making the team best and who are the players that we need to move on from next season. So their team will definitely be a more revolving door of players, I feel, because I think Bill Belichick won't be happy until the team's where it's at. I don't see Bill actually coaching for much longer either.
Yeah,
but
I don't think so.
We'll see. The Patriots are. It's interesting because this is just a down year for the Patriots, but we'll see if they can rebound next year and how much better they get through the season. Because can they continue to play to at least a decent level? I mean, it was the Jets. The Jets are still not a great football team. The Jets are in a huge transition with Sam Darnold being injured now. They are just seeing what their best players are. They're really the same way. What are their dead weight players that they can get out, or who are they going to trade? So with the Jets, they just have a lot of big decisions, whether or not even Adam Gase is going to stay.
Yeah,
so,
probably shouldn't.
But the Jets played well in this game. It wasn't an unencouraging game. At least it shows you, hey, if we get a quarterback or Sam Darnold can be that guy, that we have some weapons around him. Really, we do. Jamison Crowder didn't really even do much in that game.
Yeah, he did have was it him who had that incredible catch?
I'm not.
Or was that Yeah, it was Jamison Crowder with that incredible catch in the end zone. It was actually the least probable pass and catch touchdown in the league this year.
Really?
Yeah, it was like a 6% probability rate that it would be caught.
Yeah.
So that was pretty great. That's Joe Flacco for you. And, shows how good Jamison Crowder is.
Jamison Crowder is he's very underrated. He's been great in fantasy in general, but it's just even if the Jets can they even keep Perriman, because I think Perriman's on a 1-year deal. But they still have Mims and Crowder. If they can keep Crowder as well, they still have some receivers to put around any quarterback that is going to play at under center.
Yeah, because they've both showed that they really have the skill to do it, and it's pretty encouraging. Also, a quick side note, Joe Flacco also passed Joe Montana's all-time yards.
Yeah, 20th.
Yep. So I just wanted to throw that out there real quick before I forget. But yeah, it's one of those games where you're kind of like, yeah, we lost and we're 0-8, but here's the good things that we can take out of it. And, like you said, you can kind of filter out the players like who you want to keep and who you don't. And obviously, like Crowder and Mims are two people you'd want to probably keep. Yeah. Perriman, I feel like you kind of, get rid of.
Maybe if you can get him for cheaper, it would be worth it.
Yeah,
he's looked good enough with Cleveland and with Tampa even to warrant a potential not long-term contract, but maybe $3-4 million deal.
Yeah, if you can get him really cheap, you can keep him. And there you go. You got 3 receivers. Mm-hmm. All you need is a quarterback. So is Sam Darnold your guy or not? You kind of had to figure that out. He's shown some flashes. At the same time, he's just looked awful in some games. So it's hard. They're going to figure that one out. And take it from there. But they do have a team. And once people get back from injuries and stuff, they could actually be decent. And last year and even this year, people thought they might be decent, but then just so many injuries. So, next year if they get those people back, maybe, they're going to have high picks in the draft. So, build some people, the team up a little bit through the draft. Mm-hmm. And next year you could be pretty decent. So we'll see.
We'll get CJ Mosley back next year too.
Yeah. So. I think the only thing is, I think they got to get rid of Adam Gase. I don't like him as a coach. I just don't think he's that great. But it just depends. But at the same time, is the organization good enough to do that? I don't know. They've showed that they're not one of the better organizations in football, so we'll see what they do.
Yeah. So now we're going to actually go to some Week 10 predictions and some previews of some games. We're going to start off with Minnesota and Chicago. We're going to start off with Minnesota and Chicago. Two teams that seem like, do they want to win games or do they not? This is a big game for Minnesota, really, because Minnesota at 3-5 are at a point where they can still make something out of this season. They're 3-5. They still have a good nucleus of players. They did lose Yannick Ngakoue, but they still have some players on that offense that if Kirk Cousins gets going, they can win. Yeah, Dalvin Cook is amazing. He has 144 carries for 858 yards on the season, 12 touchdowns.
Insane.
So he has been absolutely insane. Kirk Cousins is 15 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. So not as good, but
No.
he's still a good quarterback when he's at his best. So Minnesota is a team that will give Chicago many fits, but Chicago has a great defense. They still have Mack, and as long as you have Khalil Mack in the middle of your defense, you're always going to be pretty formidable.
Yeah, definitely.
But can Nick Foles play well enough to get them the win? You know, they have the players, they have the weapons with Allen Robinson and Montgomery. Unfortunately, lost Tariq Cohen, but they still have some weapons in the offense that they can win the games. So they need to prove that. They're at home as well, although I guess home field advantage doesn't mean as much.
Yeah, true.
Because of COVID, but still, I don't know. I think Minnesota's going to win this game. I think Minnesota looks like they might be hitting their stride, especially with Dalvin Cook in the backfield. He looks like he's just trying to make a case for maybe a running back MVP. So
yeah,
there's a lot of running backs like that, but he's definitely one of the stronger cases. So I like the Vikings to go to 4-5 and really push for not the least mediocre team in the NFC North.
Yeah, I think that the Vikings definitely are, figuring out who they are, and they're finally starting to play up to their potential, because like you said, they have great players: Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook. Kirk Cousins is okay. A lot of times it comes down to him, just how well he plays, because if he, throws a lot of picks, that really impacts the game. So you have a lot of great players, and I feel like Kirk Cousins is like the weak link in the offense.
Mm-hmm.
So, if they could address that, then maybe they could be like, a lot better, like with, the Packers and Bears. But like you said, they're still in it, and if they can, string together some wins, they can make some noise, especially with the added playoff team. Or like you said, if games are canceled or whatever, then they could definitely make
more
it.
Teams.
Yeah, so they just have to, just keep it up and keep going. And so the Bears, it's going to be fun to watch that defense go up against Dalvin Cook, because they're a pretty good defense, and Dalvin Cook is a really good running back. So it's going to be, I could see a lot of maybe Dalvin Cook hitting the ball, because this defense can create turnovers, and I feel like maybe they'll get a couple from Kirk Cousins. But I feel like the Vikings, like, at least on paper, like, their offense, I feel like should be better than the Bears, and they should have a better record almost. But the Bears have just performed well enough, and their defense has really kept them in the game, and Nick Foles has been, decent enough to keep them in the games, and Allen Robinson, helps out an awful lot and gets them out of a lot of situations.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch these two teams, I think. And I don't know, do you have a pick for who's going to
I like
win?
Minnesota. I think Minnesota's just a better team. For comparison, rushing touchdowns this year, David Montgomery leads their team with 1 touchdown. So
yeah,
Dalvin Cook
rushing
has
is
12
totally
touchdowns. But no, I still like the Vikings in the game. I think the Vikings are a little bit better balanced team, but I just don't know. It just depends if what Vikings team shows up.
Yeah.
We always
So
say
inconsistent.
every year Kirk Cousins is either hot or he's cold.
Yeah.
And this is the game where it seems like maybe he might lose it because it's Chicago. But this could be the one game he just torches Chicago's defense. So I like Kirk Cousins to at least get the win.
Yeah, I'm really torn with this one, because I feel like you could really go either way.
Mm-hmm.
I might agree with you on this one and say that, because Dalvin Cook is hot right now, and they're gonna just cover him, and if they cover him, like if they focus on covering him, then Adam Thielen's gonna be open, and he's gonna be able to make some plays, and it's just their offense should be so good. So, and then you have Kyle Rudolph and Irv Smith, and so you have a lot of help. It's just, how well can Kirk Cousins play? How well, like you said, what Vikings team do we get?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to agree with you, though. But That's a tough one.
Yeah, it should be a very entertaining game. Really good matchup between two teams that need the win.
Yeah, for sure. Going from that game to another very exciting game, the Buffalo Bills and the Arizona Cardinals. Both quarterbacks had great games. We already covered Josh Allen. 3 touchdowns, 415 yards, 415 yards. But then Kyler Murray, he went 21 for 26, 283 yards and 3 touchdowns. But that's not all. He also added 106 yards on 11 carries, averaging 9.6 yards a carry and another touchdown. So he had 4 total touchdowns on the night. He's just so good. It's crazy. He's basically having like a Lamar Jackson season like last season. It seems like he's like right about like it's just a very similar style. And Chase Edmonds, he didn't do as well as we all had hoped and as we all expected. He got 70 yards, but on 25 carries, he averaged 2.8 yards a carry. So very underwhelming for what everyone expected him to be. But Christian Kirk had 123 yards on 5 receptions and a touchdown. And Fitzgerald, he got in there a little bit, 54 yards and 4 catches. You can always count on Fitz.
Yeah,
the best.
Not bad.
Yeah. However, DeAndre Hopkins really did not do much. He had 3 yards. He had 3 catches and 30 yards. So he had a quiet week. So he's going to be looking to bounce back, and he's gonna have his work cut out for him. So, the Bills' defense last week had 5 sacks, 2 interceptions. So they were putting some pressure on Wilson, and they're going to look to do it again on Murray. And the thing is, Murray, Russell Wilson can do this too, but Murray might be a little bit more shifty. So he might be able to get out some and run for some gains. But I don't know. It's gonna be tough for them because the Bills' defense isn't horrible.
So who do you got?
I feel like this is a tough one. It really is a tough one. Because I feel like it's going to be a great game because, like we talked about, the Bills' stats earlier, how they looked really good. And the Cardinals look really good. However, they did lose to the Dolphins. So I might say the Bills on this one. I feel like just everyone there is just, they have John Brown, Zach Moss is, getting into the offense a little bit more, and Cole Beasley, and I'm going to give it to them, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's tough, but yeah, I think it's going to be a very close game, but I think they'll squeeze it out.
The game should be just as close as the last week's game with the Bills and Seattle. This is another big game for the Bills. They went past that one hurdle with Seattle, and so now they have another hurdle where they're going to Arizona. The Arizona is just playing so well this year. I see Arizona winning just because they're at home. I know that because of COVID, it hasn't made as big of a difference, but I could see that I could see Kyler Murray getting a lot more yards against Buffalo's defense than Russell Wilson did, because Kyler's a little bit, he's a much shiftier player and a little bit faster, so I see him getting a little bit more yards. I don't think that the game is going to be far out of reach, though. This is another very close game.
Oh, yeah.
But I see Arizona getting the win just by a little bit because they really need this win. They lost to the Dolphins, who really, the Dolphins are turning into a decent team. They're a respectable team. They're one of the, I believe, top 10 or 5 defenses in the NFL. And
now with Tua.
Exactly. So it's not like Arizona just lost to a very poor team. They lost to a team that looks like they could be good down the road. So I like Arizona in this game, but I will say I do think the game will be close as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Another game that we're going to get into is Washington Football Team at Detroit Lions. I really like this game in general just because of the fact that Alex Smith is probably going to be starting.
True, yeah.
And I feel like we don't talk about some of the mediocre to not very good teams in the NFL.
Yeah.
So we like to be a little bit more diverse, but still, the Washington Football Team is competed in some games. They're 2-6, but they just can't get over the hump. Yeah, Alex Smith had 3 interceptions and 1 touchdown, so he finally got in, and it looks as if
he's going to be the guy for the rest of the season.
3 interceptions and 1 touchdown?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yep.
wow.
Yep. He had 3 interceptions. He had 24-32, 325 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. But I mean, Alex Smith didn't look bad though. Mm-hmm. This was his first real game back, and it seems, like I said, that he should be the guy going forward, because it seems like Ron Rivera's really not sold on Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah.
And they may look to move on from him in the offseason. Maybe, we'll see. But it doesn't look like Dwayne Haskins is the guy, so they give the reins to Alex Smith, which I think is a good idea for the rest of the season, because they really have nothing to lose with having Alex Smith, and maybe they win a couple more games, which might not be what their organization would want, so they can get a higher pick, but he still gives them the best opportunity to win games. On the other side, you have Detroit, who lost to Minnesota 34-20. They just unfortunately lost to just a hot Minnesota team that's starting to get hotter. But Detroit, if they can get healthy and stay healthy, if Matt Stafford also comes off of the COVID list at this point, then I like Detroit's chances in this game. But the Washington football team has a very good defense. They have some young players in Chase Young and just younger players around the defense, so they can definitely make a noise, especially since they're only 1 game right now out of the division,
which is crazy.
You have Philadelphia at 3-4-1 and Washington at 2-6, so Washington can somehow be in playoff contention in that division. But with Detroit, they're just looking to stay above water, because Minnesota's 3-5 and Chicago's 5-4, so they need to keep pace in the NFC North. And in order for them to do that, I think they need this win. But I do think they get the win. I think Detroit, Matt Stafford, as long as Matt Stafford comes back from the COVID list. If he doesn't, then we may be having another conversation next week. But for now, I like Detroit with Matt Stafford back.
Yeah, I would agree. I think they're just a little bit better of a team. Alex Smith, it's going to take him a little bit of time to just get used to everything and get back into the groove. I do think he'll get better week to week. And, I thought it was an encouraging look this past week, because he made some good throws. And it's really cool to see him back, just playing it all.
Yeah.
So I think that, they could score some points in this game, but I do think the Lions will come out in the end and win. Yeah. I just think they're a better team.
Definitely.
So hopping over from that over to the Bucs and the Panthers. We already talked about the Bucs and, their loss last week, so we know that they're coming to get a redemption game.
After that badness.
Yeah, exactly. And then the Panthers, they went toe-to-toe with the Chiefs and just came up short. So they're also looking for a redemption game. And last week they looked pretty good. Yeah. Teddy Bridgewater got 2 touchdowns, 310 yards, 36 for 39. 36 for 49. Christian McCaffrey was back, unfortunately. You mentioned earlier on, he got injured again, and he's doubtful next week. So unfortunately, he probably won't be in this game. But he looked great in the Chiefs game. He looked really great. The Panthers look like a much better team, just because his level of play is so high that it just elevates the entire team. But Curtis Samuel, he had a great game last week, 105 yards on 9 catches and a touchdown. So there's going to be a lot of receivers for the Buccaneers to defend. Samuel, Anderson, Mike Davis will be in the game a lot more, because McCaffrey and I would say DJ Moore, but he hasn't really done anything this year, so I don't know. Maybe he'll surprise everyone and get some points. But the Buccaneers have a pretty good defense, and I feel like the Buccaneers will win this one, just because I think they're a better team. I think their defense is pretty good, and I think they can maybe stop the Panthers, or at least limit them, especially without Christian McCaffrey. Mm-hmm. That's the big part. And I think Tom Brady will have a pretty good game. I think he's just going to maybe go off. I think one of the receivers are going to have a really big game, because I can see them someone just going off, whether it's Brown, Evans, or Godwin. Yeah. And I think it could be a good game, but I could kind of just see the Buccaneers taking off with this one. We'll see. Mm-hmm. But I do think the Buccaneers are just a way better team.
Yeah. It seems like if especially if Carolina doesn't have, Christian McCaffrey, then it doesn't seem likely. Mike Davis has filled in very well, but
Definitely.
I would like the Bucs. I like the Bucs to bounce back, and I think they'll really get a lot of pressure on Teddy this game, and it'll really force him into a lot of unfortunate errors, and the Bucs should win the game handily, but we'll see. You know, the Panthers just narrowly missed beating the Chiefs, or at least tying them. So, I mean, really, I'm sorry. They were narrowly almost beat them. I'm sorry, they missed a field goal.
Yeah.
But still, like, the Panthers aren't a bad team. So, but I wouldn't say that the Chiefs' defense is stellar in any way. So, I do like the Bucs' chance, though.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, they did go toe-to-toe with the Chiefs, but I think the Chiefs haven't been, quite the same as last year, and their defense isn't super great. So, the Bucs' defense is definitely better. So, I could, like you said, I could see them just putting a lot of pressure on, and yeah, so I'm looking forward to this game a lot. I just think the Bucs are going to have a big game and really put it away to try to make a statement. And, we'll see, though, but it should be a pretty good game.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all of our games that we're going to cover tonight. But we're going to move right on into the Ravens section, which is always fun to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
We had the Ravens-Colts game last week. And conveniently for us, our bye week in quotes of missing last week, we don't have to even talk about the Ravens loss, so it's great. So we had the Colts last week, and then we have the Patriots next week.
Yeah.
The Ravens first half this past week looked awful. We had 50 yards on offense.
Was not great. Yes, we'll say that.
Yeah, it was really bad. Our team looked awful. Our defense was holding it together. Mm-hmm. They kept us in the game and everything. But the second half, we just looked like a whole different team. Our defense still put on a lot of pressure, played great. Our offense just started clicking, and it was just
the ball a lot more for sure.
Yeah, and it was like we were like making pretty good calls, and it was like they adjusted a lot, and they impressed me a lot with just how much they turned it around in game like that.
Yeah, the Ravens really came out very underwhelming in this game, but they turned it around, and it seems like hopefully this may be the Lamar Jackson at least is pushing in the right direction of Greg Roman not messing up the offense and us running a little bit more normal of an offense. I don't think that as a fan I'm asking for too much. I don't expect for Lamar Jackson to become Patrick Mahomes overnight. That's not what I'm asking for. Mm-hmm. I just want Lamar Jackson to be played at the offense to be handled in the best way that gives Lamar Jackson a chance to win. Not for Lamar Jackson to throw all over the field. If that means that we run and we play a lot more running, then that's fine. But if Lamar Jackson just needs to make those passes count. And that's, he was 19 of 23, so 170 yards. So he didn't have a throwing touchdown, but he still moved the ball down the field, which had the running offense really get in. He did have a rushing touchdown. So we're looking at the Ravens still. I still feel we have so much to give in the offense, but it's still a good step forward for our offense that we showed. Were dominant. We had multiple drives in the second half that were led, and they were longer drives, and that's really positive for our offense.
Yeah, I think this week showed that it was just a good step for our team to take. It kind of gave us something to build on. Mm-hmm. We saw adjustments at work, and like you said, we ran more. We had more of a balance. I think it's definitely something that we can look at like this week and just really build on it for the weeks to come. And hopefully Greg Roman, he still had some, especially in the first half, some idiotic plays. Mm-hmm. For some reason, like we went, in the end of the half, there was like a minute left and we ran it 3 times or ran twice and threw it or whatever.
Yep.
So dumb. And like, they almost got a field goal because of it, or I don't think they did. Right?
No, they missed it.
They still got a field goal attempt. We should have been the ones with the field goal attempt or touchdown. So I think that the play calling is still so idiotic at times. Mm-hmm. But in the second half, he really cleaned it up. And I mean, if he can, maybe figure it out and stay consistently balanced. Because, I mean, I feel like we really need that balance because we can't just make Lamar throw so much. So if we can get some kind of balance, I think our offense could be good. But it's definitely going to take some work, and we're not there yet. But it's a step in the right direction, at least that second half. That first half was rough, though.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to be consistently good. We got to stop, like, taking a long time to warm up for, like, our offense. And, we just got to be able to be going into these games ready to play and, just perform. But I think it'll happen.
Yeah.
It's just as long as Greg Roman doesn't call stupid plays.
If he would just call better plays, if his play calling was just a little bit better, then I think that we could definitely be better and we'll do better. I mean, we have our matchup next week against the Patriots, and I mean, it seems like a game that we should definitely win.
Yeah, especially seeing what the Jets did to them.
So I don't expect for us to go toe to toe with the Patriots, since they just went toe to toe with the New York Jets.
Plus, we'll probably have Marlon Humphrey back, right? Yeah,
but we'll see. We'll see if we'll have him back, whether or not he tests negatives and how his health is. But even without him, our chances still should be very, very high. We should definitely win the game. I'm hoping that Lamar Jackson can really do well in this game, especially if Stephon Gilmore is still out for the Patriots.
Yeah, and the Colts offense is probably better. I mean, I would say it's better than the Patriots offense, and I mean, we saw what our defense did with that, even without Marlon Humphrey. So I definitely have confidence that they'll put a lot of pressure on Cam Newton and really probably shut down that offense. I feel like we could easily just outscore this team by double digits, like 10, 20 points. I could see it. But, yeah, we'll see. But I'm pretty confident going into this one.
Yeah.
But hoping that we continue to build off of the second half of last week in it. We'll see.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see just what we have drawn up.
Yeah.
But going from the Ravens into fantasy, do you have any waiver wire pickups? Do you have any favorite players?
Do I have any favorite players? See, I still like Zach Moss because he's still not completely available in a lot of leagues.
He is on my team.
But, he is on your team, but he's not available in a lot of other leagues. But, I would say that I have this person, and I like them, but I'm not 100% sure whether or not they will be very good. But I kind of like Wayne Gallman. He's he's rostered in 32% of leagues. I don't think that he's had 3 straight weeks of good production. So I don't know whether or not he'll still be good in the offense going forward, but he's had 3 straight weeks of good production. So I like him at least to maybe be somebody to watch. I don't know whether he's not somebody. I don't know if he's somebody you maybe want to claim, but I guess you could claim him and maybe see, but the Giants are not very good, so I don't know how high his ceiling is. But just be somebody to watch.
Yeah.
Potential waiver pickup.
For sure. Someone who would only be worth picking up if for some reason the Niners receivers don't come back from their COVID injury designation or whatever. Richie James, he had 33 points last week. However, that's because there weren't really any other receivers. So he's not a receiver you'll want to pick up once people are back.
Maybe a stream.
Yeah, maybe even if 1 or 2 receivers don't come back, he'd be worth at least a 1 week start maybe. Someone else who's only owned in 27% of leagues and should be a pretty obvious one this week, but Rex Burkhead. Because with Harris going down and all, he's a great pickup because he'll be getting a lot of work. And more than likely, him or White, we'll see. But either one is worth a pickup and at least a stash to see how the running back situation goes. And I don't know how long Harris is out for. I actually forget.
I'm not sure, but
Burkhead would definitely be a good pickup.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know if I'd like him against Baltimore.
No, but if it's
still,
if
like you said, a stash for sure.
Yeah, if Harris is like a long-term injury or even like a couple weeks, Burkhead could be a good filler. So that's probably like my top one. Oh, also J.D. McKissick, who's owned 47.9% of rosters, not a bad pickup. He had 17.2 points last week. He does a lot of his damage in the air. He had 9 catches for 65 yards. And that's where he gets most of his points in fantasy. But moving on to our Simply Splendid player of the week. Who you got? You got someone?
My Simply Splendid player of the week. See, I gotta be honest, that just a couple of minutes ago, it was actually gonna be Christian McCaffrey. Because, he's my number 1 overall draft pick, and I've only had him for 3 weeks, which has been unfortunate. But I think I know who I'm going to go with, and it's going to be Joseph Vincent Flacco. Just because of the fact that there's very few weeks that we may be able to say this at this point. So I think that he deserves at least one Simply Splendid player of the week, because I think it's great to see Joe do well in general. And as Baltimore fans, we're always happy to see Joe kill it. And he had himself 20.48 fantasy points, 3 touchdowns, as you said, and 262 yards, which is a simply splendid week for him.
Probably his peak performance in fantasy, but I'm very happy that he was able to get a Simply Splendid. He deserves it. He played great. It was awesome to see. I totally agree. That's a great one. And moving from him over to another purple player, even though Joe Flacco's on the Jets, Dalvin Cook, I think, would be my simply splendid player of the week. 206 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he added another 46 yards in the air on 2 catches. Just insane. Went off 39.2 fantasy points. He's just been having quite the year.
Insane.
Yeah, last week he had 48.6, so he's just... he's got an incredible average of 28.7 points as a running back. So he simply splendid, without a doubt. He's a lot of fun to watch. But I think I like your Simply Splendid player a little bit more, but I'm a bit biased. But I think that's everything.
Yeah.
That wraps it up. Thanks for listening. Hopefully there won't be any audio problems this time. And be sure to check out our Patreon page and like and share the podcast. And thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening again. We appreciate it. We're glad we're able to do this. So
definitely.
Till next time.
We'll see you in week 11.
Yeah, we'll see you in week 11. Bye-bye.